Hello everyone and welcome to Harv's World, where we are back in Ravensberg. And today we're going to find out about something that Germany seems to have more of than just about anywhere in the world. No, we already did beer. We already did the beer. Castles. German castles. There's over 20,000 castles in Germany. That's more than a few. We're going to touch on just a few because, well, frankly, there are far too many. Far too many to try to do them all. We'd be here probably until the middle of next year if we tried to hit all of the German castles. But hey, it might be worth it. Who knows? Okay, much is afoot. Now, the manure problem is semi under control, especially splitting the herd. I think helped a great deal. You can see that I have been to the shop this morning and brought back a new piece of equipment. Something I said I wasn't going to do, and I'm not going to say I was overruled because he's far too clever for that, but it was strongly suggested that I start using manure on the fields and not chemical fertilizer as much as I could. If I can't use all chemical fertilizer, or if I can't use all manure, then I think the chemical fertilizer is going to be fine. I think Herr Huber is just too savvy a businessman to let something like that go. You know, why spend money on fertilizer when you've got these cows producing fertilizer for free? It is more time consuming, but I think there might be some ways we can speed up that process. I'm just checking the cattle this morning, getting them sorted out. Make sure they've got plenty of water. Hello, Bessie. Don't walk through the truck. Anyway, some other things have taken place. I did replant this field with regular grass. I took out the pasture grass since it wasn't working for me. I put regular grass in here, and there's a very distinct possibility now that this is going to start feeding the cattle. I'm still going to need to store some grass to get us through winter time. But I think that regular grass is going to sort out those cows up there. The cows in the pasture. I also got our alfalfa silage all compacted. It is fermenting at the moment. Where do we stand on that anyway? About 32%. Now the cattle are missing that one food group until I can get that complete. And then, of course, I want to get even more going in there as soon as possible. But there are two big jobs to get done today. Many fields need fertilizer. In fact, the alfalfa field is going to need fertilizer. Clover field needs fertilizer. That grass field up there is going to need some fertilizer. And the new corn field is going to need fertilizer. So that's where we stand with that at the moment. And it's overkill. Nah, that's overkill. The Fent is way too big for this job. I think I'll use the smaller, not the small one, but the smaller Kloss. But I do need to get this equipment, and I got some of it cleaned up, but not all of it. This tractor just needs a good wash down really quickly. That'll do. Okay. The first thing I'm going to get started on is fertilizing. Might as well try out the new piece of equipment, right? I mean, I've got it. Might as well see what it'll do for me. The good thing is the conveyor belts will still be handy. Should fill us up in no time. Yes, they do. Now I did get pretty much the biggest fertilizer spreader I could get my hands on. I felt like that was going to be important. And yes, I know our fields aren't super huge, but fertilizer gets consumed at a pretty spectacular rate in a fertilizer spreader, so being able to haul as much as possible at one time seemed like a bigger priority than simply making multiple trips over and over again because, ooh, squirrely. Yes, I know I drive way too fast. Life will go on. It shouldn't take much to get this crop sorted very, very quickly. It's got a nice good spread on it. That's good. Not to mention, I have a sneaking suspicion it's really going to annoy the neighbors. I believe in certain places in Europe, don't quote me on this, but I believe, if I remember correctly hearing about it, that in some places there are restrictions on when you can and can't use this type of thing, like slurry or manure or something like that. I want to say in the in the United Kingdom, there are agricultural regulations that prohibit manure or slurry during certain times of the year, which I suppose makes some sense. And you know, you don't want all of the runoff to muck up your waterways, no pun intended. But yeah, I mean, you can see I haven't even done one pass completely around this field yet, and I've already gone through more than half the trailer. I can't see. Oh, there we go. I was way off the mark. So yeah, even to get this one field done, and it's not a very big field, I'm probably going to have to make a second trip over to grab more manure to make sure it all gets sorted out. But it is doing a good job. I have to credit it with that. Well, I'm probably missing spots like crazy. Now, one other thing that I've done that I haven't mentioned yet today is that I did decide to go with the CCM. I did decide to go ahead and make CCM, and I have installed the mill on the property. I will show you that in just a little bit. The reason being, okay, it's not really going to help us with our cattle feed problem. I mean, that just is a fact. It's not really going to do much as far as cattle feed goes. But it will double the price of our corn. So I've got the two cornfields. I felt like I was going to need them for the cattle. It doesn't really look like that's going to be the case. And this will turn into pasture once this corn is complete. Alright, that takes care of the poop patrol. Not going through it quite as fast as I initially expected to, so good, very good. Now, the other big job to get done, right now in the middle of summer, oddly enough, as it may seem, is we've got a corn harvest. This is where we're going to run our CCM test. Now, CCM, corn cob mix, harvested corn. Let me just pull this up over here, because this is my neck of the woods that we need to be talking about just at the moment. Here is the corn cob mill, or the CCM mill, I should say. We're going to take our corn, we're going to dump it in here. It's going to grind the corn into corn flour, or raw CCM. And we can look at our menu right here. Maize goes in, corn. Raw CCM or corn flour comes out. Now, once the raw CCM comes out, I won't be able to jump up over this now. It's going in the bunker silo. And then we compact it and do the exact same thing with that as we do with our regular old silage. Blanket it and wait for it to ferment. Once it's fermented, we get CCM. So I was thinking about this a little bit, and what I've decided is I'm going to start with 30,000 liters. Now, 30,000 liters, whoa. 30,000 liters is all the CCM mill will hold. And so what I want to see is I'm going to put in 30,000 liters of corn. I'm going to run the whole process before I add any more, and that way I can do a complete, short, small test. So I'm going to put in 30,000 liters, see how much, 30,000 liters of corn, and then I'm going to see how much raw CCM I get out of it. And then, and only then, I will transfer the raw CCM to the bunker silo and wait for it to become CCM. And then I will see how many liters of CCM I get out of it. And I will compare that to the price of corn. And that way we can find out how lucrative that particular crop might just be. And this should be a fairly solid corn crop here. I expect it to be. No reason it shouldn't be. It's been weeded, fertilized, all of that good stuff. I will need to plow this field again. You always have to plow after corn. But that's neither here nor there. And then I'll need to think about what I can get in here because, well, it's still only midsummer. I can get a winter crop in that will hibernate over the winter and then harvest earlier next year. There we go. Okay. So let's get started with Schwerin Castle. A brilliant, beautiful castle, completely surrounded by water. Isn't that beautiful in the wintertime? You almost can't tell it's surrounded by water because of the frozen lakes around it, but it's only connected to the mainland by a bridge. And this thing dates back all the way to about 973, not 1973, 973. It's one of the best examples of German castles. It's got very opulent interiors, a magnificent throne room. It's considered the Neuschwanstein of the North. Some people call it that because Neuschwanstein is one of the most spectacular castles in Germany, but we're going to cover that one in just a little bit. The next castle on our little tour of German castles is Schloss Wernigerode. Schloss means castle, so all of these can be considered Schloss. Schloss Wernigerode was originally built in the Middle Ages, and it was just a place for the wealthy to stop off on hunting trips. That's all it was initially. But then they changed it in the 16th century to be more of a fortress. Then it was pretty well destroyed and built back up to become an actual residence for kings, queens, barons, whatever Germany has with regard to those types of people. But that's what it ultimately became, and it's, as you would expect from all of these castles, and many of them are open to the public now. So if you went to Germany, you could definitely stop in for a visit and check them out. But as you would expect to see, inlaid floors, lavish decorations, a huge amount of rooms, like 50 rooms, marble fireplaces, stuff like that. I mean, it's going to be one of the most spectacular things you've ever seen if you ever get a chance to walk through one of these castles. And Schloss Wernigerode is no exception. This is Hohenshwangau Castle. And interestingly, this castle, though built centuries ago, was restored after it had fallen into serious disrepair. It was restored by Maximilian II. Maximilian II just happens to be King Ludwig's father. And so King Ludwig is the king who built Neuschwanstein, which is probably the most famous castle in Germany. And this castle is actually very near to Neuschwanstein. But this castle is where King Ludwig grew up. And Maximilian II, he's like, hey, I need a place for my family to chill in the summer and maybe go hunting once in a while. So, he built them a small place to do that. Anyway, Ludwig had a very deep interest in fairy tales and legends, and it's suspected growing up in this castle that this is what influenced that, because the castle walls were painted all over with German historic legends. Now, Liechtenstein Castle, a beautiful example of a medieval castle, actually wasn't built during medieval times. It was built in the 18th century. And it was built on the foundations of several other castles that had fallen into disrepair, had become ruins, and ultimately they had to be done away with. And it was the Duke of Urach who had Liechtenstein Castle built. It's just an hour south of Stuttgart, so if you're ever planning a trip to Stuttgart, plan to take an hour drive to this one because it's absolutely beautiful. Sitting right on the edge of a cliff. It's got a narrow bridge to walk over if you want to go inside, which of course it is open to the public. And there's plenty to see and do. I guess it's got amazing painted ceilings and some spectacular glass windows in the chapel. Now, this next castle is not only beautiful, but it's got an interesting fact about it. And that fact is that it has been held by the same family since it was built over 700 years ago. This is Burg-Eltz Castle. Burg-Eltz Castle, held by the Eltz family, and they have kept it in perfect shape for over 700 years. And it's got the perfect setting. It's in a very dense forest on a high outcrop. It looks fantastic. It's got over 100 rooms in it. I mean, this thing is spectacular. Not only that, I mean, obviously you can tour this castle. When you're there, make sure to check out the armory and the treasury, because as you would expect, thinking about visiting a castle, lots of suits of armor standing around, and the treasury still has one of the most important private collections of historic artworks, weapons, curiosities, more than 500 objects for you to check out. This would definitely be on my list of castles to visit. if I ever get the opportunity to go to Germany. Isn't this a stunning view of Heidelberg Castle at night? It's absolutely brilliant. And Heidelberg is one of the oldest castles in Germany. It was built in 1214. That's when it was originally built. It suffered through 3 different fires that left it pretty much uninhabitable. But again, it's a place you can visit. It's near Old Town Heidelberg, which would be a fantastic stop on anybody's tour of Germany anyway. So much to see and do there, but we're talking about the castle. One of the truly unique and most interesting things about Heidelberg Castle is that in its wine cellar, it has the largest wine barrel in the world. It's 23 feet high. It's 27 feet wide and will hold 220,000 liters of wine. Talk about a party. Sign me up. I'm going to Heidelberg. Crack that wine barrel open and let's get our wine on, shall we? Now this is the ancestral home of the German imperial family, the House of Hohenzollern. And this is Hohenzollern Castle. It's set on the edge of the Black Forest. It's also fairly near to Stuttgart. It's old, incredibly old. It was built in the early 1200s also. I mean, many of these castles, obviously, we're discovering, were built a long, long time ago. You know, they fall into disrepair over time. You know, I mean, these are huge structures that I'm sure cost a fortune to keep up. And even royal families often go through financial crises. Not the same ones you and I might, but they do, and they can't keep up. But it was rebuilt in the 19th century. Now, some of it has survived. There's a chapel, the St. Michael Chapel, I believe it's called, that has survived the entire time. But again, it's a beautiful example of castles in Germany that you should visit. I mean, even the Prussian royal crown is exhibited here. Again, it's open to the public. And apparently, from what I've been told, one of the best Christmas markets in Germany takes place here over a couple of weekends in December. So if you want to visit Hohenzollern Castle, you might consider doing it at Christmas time. Finally, we come to Neuschwanstein, probably the most popular castle in all of Germany. I think it's the one most people think of when they think of German castles. And in fact, this is the castle that inspired Walt Disney, and the castle you see in Disney productions is very much based on Neuschwanstein. Interestingly, as I said earlier, this castle was built by King Ludwig of Bavaria. He was known as the Mad King, and he just wanted a place to get away from it all, and he put it in one of the most picturesque settings you can imagine. I mean, you saw how beautiful is that setting. It's amazing. What's particularly interesting, though, is that only 15 of the 200 rooms in this castle were even completed when King Ludwig died. What's also interesting is that the castle was open to the public not long after his death. So they knew they had something on their hands that was going to be very popular with the public, and people would want to see it. It's a brilliant, brilliant example of German architecture and German castles in general. And this has to be on everybody's must-do list if they ever go to Germany. However, keep in mind that it is very popular and you will need to make a reservation to get in, at least several days, if not several weeks in advance. Okay, there we go. Corn all done. Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Yeah, okay. So at this point, I need to run over. I'm going to grab this trailer full of corn. I don't know exactly how much I got in there. Wasn't really paying attention. Too busy focusing on those castles. Man. And just amazing. Those castles are just amazing. Like out of a fairy tale. I'm sure you know what I mean, you know? And a lot of times when they describe these castles, you know, it's right out of a fairy tale. Alright, let's grab our truck. Yeah, we got 53, almost 54,000 liters of corn off that field, so that's not shabby. Not shabby at all. Now, I'm going to go fill up the CCM mill first. It's going to take 30,000 liters. The rest is going to go in the silo. Then we're going to run the CCM test. I don't know how long it's going to take. It's going to take a few days, I'm sure. That's, you know, it's going to be interesting. At least I think it's going to be interesting to find out exactly, you know, does CCM pay better than just straight corn? We won't know until the compacting and the fermenting is done. So we can see, we need a volume comparison. 30,000 liters of corn to X amount of corn flour to X amount of CCM. And then we will know how our costs compare. We should have just under 24,000 liters left when this is full. Nope, it took a lot more than that, or it's processing much faster than I imagined it would. Yeah, see, it processed 6,000 liters already, so it took an additional. I'll sort that out. We are going to get a good solid comparison, though. A good solid comparison. I'm going to find out exactly how much went in. So this is 18,886. Actual, no, that's not necessarily true. Alright. Well, it's almost 8 o'clock. About time to wrap up for the day anyway. So I think that's what we're going to do, and then we'll check back in on the 4th day of summer. It's summer the 4th, or the 4th day of summer, or whatever. I have fed up the cattle this morning already. The first thing I'm going to do, I've already got the tractor in the field, but I'm going to get a helper to start working on this. And you know what? I think I should be able to just use a standard old helper. Standard, no problem helper. Should sort this field out just fine. And I've got interesting news to report about the CCM production that, well, I found pretty interesting. Now, one thing I did do before I went home for the night last night was I spread this whole field with manure again, so it got its first coat of fertilizer before this plowing starts. So, that's going to get sorted out. Drive away, little helper, and do me proud. We all know what helpers can be like when it comes to farm sim. Anyhow, the CCM, well, that mill cranks through the corn pretty darn quick. Now, by my calculations, the mill holds 30,000, as we can see right here in our inputs. But it took 35,000, and that's just because it was processing it so quickly. Now, I need to pull the raw corn flour out. Oh, and I should say, so it took 35,000, it processed, it'll only hold 30,000 liters of raw CCM, and we had 10,000 liters of corn left, so it processed 25,000 liters of corn into 30,000 liters of raw CCM. So that's an additional 5,000 liters. So we're up by 5,000 liters. Now what we need to do is get this into a silo, a bunker silo, and compact it and see if we lose any volume. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, one thing I've discovered, and this has been verified by a source that I trust a great deal, someone who's been following me for a long time. His name is Rusty. Maize Plus has some idiosyncrasies. And as it stands right now, I want to dump this into this bunker silo, but it's telling me, sorry, thank you for playing, you cannot dump that in here. Now, if I go into my garage, like so, and I sell off that bunker silo. So there we go. It's gone. No more. Bob's your uncle. Don't need it, don't want it. Now if I go back to my silos and grab that same silage bunker, and this is going to cost me extra money, put it back in there. And now it'll let me tip. So I don't know what's going on there. I'm not entirely sure what the issue is. And I kind of get the feeling that the same issue was present when I replaced the other silos. Okay, so I've got my 25,000 liters of corn that became 30,000 liters of raw CCM. And I'm just going to use this trailer to compact it. It shouldn't take very long with the small amount. Alright, there we go. So, the corn flour is all compacted in the silo now. All I gotta do is blanket it and wait. Ta-da! And where are we at? We should be there by the end of the day on our alfalfa silage. That will get our cattle working at 100%, at least they will be fed 100%. Get that productivity back up. Oh yes, we gotta have that productivity. Okay, I am just gonna park this up at the silo, and then, I mean really, it's summer. No, I just want out, let me out. So, let's take a quick look at our fields just to see where we stand. Good, that helper seems to be doing their job with no trouble. Everything is growing quite nicely. We still need fertilizer on 28 and 29. And I'm not sure it will take it yet. So we're really kind of at a standstill for the moment. In fact, you know, I think I've made a command decision. And we are getting a little bit low on money. And I'm not going to fool with trying to make TMR when it really doesn't do that. It adds a lot of work and doesn't benefit us. It really doesn't. So I think I'm going to grab this Silo King, run it back to the shop, and sell it off. Because frankly, we can use the money more than we can use the headaches of trying to mix this TMR. Alright, let's see what we can get for this bloody thing. 136,000 euros. Done. Be gone, Silo King. Be gone. Okay, well that'll keep us in operating expenses for a while. So now I don't feel quite so bad about hiring that worker to plow that field. I think my next battle is figuring out what to put in that field for a good winter crop. Yeah, don't mind that give way sign there, brother. Okay, well, I've given it some thought. Given it quite a lot of thought, actually. Probably more than it really deserved, but that's neither here nor there. I think this field is going to get spelt. Spelt. He who spelt it, dealt it. Or spelt, which is a very popular grain in Germany and Poland. It's used to make bread, rolls. Some brewers use it, and it's also used in Poland to make vodka. So, where do we stand? Well, I need to spread a whole bunch more manure. A whole bunch more manure. At least on a couple of fields. This one included. This will get another application. Not just now, obviously, because it's getting fertilized as I seed. Need to check on my cornfield over there. The pasture needs one more. Does it? Let's look and see. I don't want to talk out of turn. No, the pasture's done. So 28 and 29 need fertilizer. I'll keep working on 24. And we will see how all this sorts itself out. Should be good. Should be very good. And we're getting our Maize Plus sorted out. A little bit more today with the CCM. So I'm going to keep working on this field. Going to keep checking on that CCM. We will find out next time just exactly how much that CCM is going to provide once it's turned into silage. We will get a cost comparison between regular corn and CCM. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of Ravensberg. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do me a favor. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. I appreciate you coming along for the ride. And until next time, take care.